Yeah, apparently there's a big lawsuit. There's some drama in the lawsuit world with YouTube and Meta.
Welcome back. We are following breaking news. A verdict in the landmark case addressing the power and influence of social media. A Los Angeles jury today finding Meta and YouTube negligent in the design or operation of their platforms and saying the companies failed to warn users of the dangers of their services. The jurors found that the tech giant's platforms harmed a young user with features that made her addicted and led to mental health problems. The trial, which included testimony from Meta.
What? So social media did exactly what it was designed to do? Get out of here.
CEO Mark Zuckerberg was the first lawsuit of its kind to go to trial. In separate statements, Meta and Google, YouTube's parent company, saying they disagree with today's verdict and plan to appeal. Today's verdict comes just one day after a jury in New Mexico ordered Meta to pay $375 million after determining that Meta concealed what it knew about child sexual exploitation on its platform.
Okay, so something about these types of like fines and shit. Fines don't do anything, man. Fines don't do shit in this day and age. Fines are just merely slaps on the wrist. It's like, imagine you or I, the common person, going out getting a seatbelt ticket and like, here's a $2 fine. The fuck is that gonna do? What percentage of our wealth is that? And it's just like, oh, I only have to pay $2 if I got caught without one of these. Minor inconvenience. I'm just not gonna wear my seatbelt. I just hand them $2 and I'm good. So this is not nearly severe enough. Now it becomes severe enough whenever, you know, you're making X amount of dollars and it's like 40% of your paycheck that week. That's enough to be like, you know what? I don't like that. That'll cause it to stop. But this is a drop in the fucking bucket. This is like handing somebody $5 bill and just be like, all right, fuck off. This stuff is not nearly severe enough to really cause any real time like change, I believe.
Meta says it plans to appeal that verdict as well. Joining me now is Jacob Ward, veteran technology journalist and host of the Rip Current podcast. He's also the author of The Loop, How Technology is...
Wait, so is this... Hold on. Let me pull up another page. I need to look at something here. Let me pull up another page over here. Is this the section of... What the fuck is it? Section something, I can't remember. That states basically... Stop pulling up other... You piece of shit. Piece of shit. Let's see. That's online platforms are not publishers. Section 230. So this might be going into Section 230 claims. So Section 230, enacted in 96, states that interactive computer services are not to be treated as the publisher or speaker of information provided by third-party users. This law provides immunity. So this might actually, okay, all right, Section 230. Is Section 230 done with? Interesting.
Creating a world without choice and how to fight back. Jacob, thanks so much for joining me. So let's talk about today's big verdict.
So they're probably going to be calling on Section 230 that they are not liable for information that third-party users, being you and I, post on their platform.
What was your big takeaway?
Well, Kristen, this is really, I mean, for me, it is I get goosebumps as I say it. It is truly a historic moment. I really think that this is on a par with figuring out that cigarettes cause cancer or that we needed to have seatbelts in cars. This is a huge societal shift that we're seeing unfolding in front of us really in real time. And as a result, you know, I think this is the end of social media as we know it, and it is definitely the end of...
Yeah, not the end of social media, but the end of what we're used to.
Childhood as we have come to accept it. We are seeing for the very first time a social media company found liable, in this case, two of them found liable for the design choices they made and for, as a result, addicting kids in a harmful...
They could not pull 230. They could not pull Section 230. They could not use that because this is about a design flaw within the actual app itself. I get it. Okay. So they could not claim immunity because of Section 230 because of how they designed it. perfect. That makes sense. And honestly, kind of based.
Way to their product. This is something that was unimaginable even a few years ago because these companies have enjoyed such powerful legal protections
Yes.
until now.
Yes.
Now this new legal theory opens up an entirely new can of worms, one that consists of more than 1,600 cases that are now going to come down on one or more of these companies, Kristen.
Wow. Well, it's really striking to hear you describe it in that context, Jacob. So paint a picture for me. You say this is the end of social media as we know it. What does that look like in our society?
Well, until now, right, we've treated our attention and by extension, our behavior as, first of all, something that you and I are supposed to be entirely in control of ourselves, right? We've been.
No, we know that. We know that with these big food companies and how they basically override our fucking satiety signals. And no, there is design flaws. Yes, we should have a certain level of, not free will, but we should have a certain level of, I can't even think of the fucking word. We should be cognizant enough to be able to know when to step away and change our behaviors and habits. However, if they're young enough, they're not going to know that type of stuff. They're not going to know how to modify behavior. All that.
Sort of the opinion
Whatever.
that somehow the choices you and I make are totally our own and can't really be shaped by anybody.
Yeah,
But
no,
then,
they're shaped
of
all the
course,
time
what
by
we saw was the
your behavior is constantly being shaped by almost every external source around you. It is. It doesn't mean that you don't have, what is the fucking word? I can't think of it right now. I can't think of the word. It doesn't mean that you don't have control over your own systems or faculties. But your behavior is consistently being shaped by other external sources.
Eyes of an industry that has made its business analyzing and shaping behavior at scale wherever possible. And this is not to say that they had nefarious ideas in mind. They just had discovered that our attention is an incredibly profitable product to traffic in. And so in this case,
I fight like hell to get your guys' attention, and I have it for like maybe 15 minutes. It's a good 15 minutes, you know. Sometimes you only need like 15 minutes.
if we're just looking at now a jury that, even a few years ago might not have been able to wrap their minds around the idea that we can have this kind of harm by the design of a platform. That was such an abstract concept. As someone who tries to articulate that concept as often as I do,
You're fighting against Megabonk. It's a hard task because Megabonk knows how to shape your behavior, man. It's very addictive. Yeah, and it's a great time.
I've spent years trying to get people to understand even the idea that there are armies of experts inside these companies working on that kind of idea.
Oh yeah, dude, you were getting spawn camped like fucking crazy. Dude, yes, you get spawn camped by these analysts. These behavior analysts are fucking smart, dude. They are incredibly intelligent. They know how to modify behavior. They know how to shape the behavior towards an outcome and a goal that you have no chance growing up in this day and age. Like, you just don't. You're being completely spawn camped by these pros, man.
And now suddenly you have
these guys have been playing Fortnite 20 years and you just logged on to your first time playing.
Jury of our peers suddenly understanding that, it seems, and as a result finding these two companies liable. So this could absolutely rewrite the rules. Now,
now for starters, I like YouTube. I fucking love YouTube. YouTube has provided me with more entertainment, more avenues of entertainment than any other platform out there. Yes, Shorts gets a little bit, the Shorts, anything that has these 6-second reels or shorts or whatever is bound to completely fuck up your tolerance for remaining focused on something. You know, they fuck up your attention span. But YouTube as a whole, fucking love it. I think it's great. I think that it does give content creators a lot more tools. And there's so many great content creators that I fall in love with that I normally wouldn't. Why would I watch? You know, like the Rust content. Never played Rust, but dude, I fucking love Rust content.
that be a rewriting of the rules that everyone will be happy with? I don't think so, right? We have enormous First Amendment issues that are going to come up with this.
Yeah.
And you know that Meta and YouTube are going to fight tooth and nail because this is an existential threat to the way they do business. So this is not over by any stretch, but I think that the era of treating our behavior as an infinite product to mine, that era is over, I think.
That I think could be healthy, man. I think that could be absolutely healthy. Now, how do we? Here's the thing. We focus on them like the big, the main culprits, and there are going to be imitators that pop up. Because this would also need to be addressed with TikTok. It would also need to be addressed Instagram. It's going to need to be addressed everywhere else. But I do think that this could be not a net negative, but it could be a benefit, you know, for just the younger generation. Our receptors are already kind of fucking fried. They're already cooked.
It's just really powerful to hear you talk about it in those terms. You talk about the profits. Let's talk about the profits of these companies. Meta is worth more than $1 trillion. YouTube is worth more than $500 billion. Its parent company, Alphabet Inc., is worth more than $3 trillion. Could these companies just absorb the cost and keep doing business?
I think that's what's going to happen also. Just like I said, if you have a speeding ticket, cop writes you a speeding ticket and they're like, here you go, here's a fine. It's $2. Who gives a shit? If they have $1 trillion and they're writing them like, oh, this is the $300 million, like you got to pay that, or 370. That's fucking change compared to how much they bring in. They're going to be like, oh, here, I'm just not going to wear my seatbelt. I can just pay the $2.
Just find a way to keep doing business as usual?
I mean, when we look, Kristen, at the individual judgments here, right, you're looking at a $375 million judgment in New Mexico, and that's a slightly different issue. It is a different issue than the one that was settled in LA, but both of them sort of surround the idea that there is harm being done and a responsibility on the part of the companies. In both of those cases, right, you're looking at numbers that really are a rounding error in the balance sheets of these companies, of course, right? The $3 million judgment for this one plaintiff in LA, no way. But you look at the 350 other family cases coming down the pipeline. You look at the 200, you know, that those alone, if you use this math, 3 million per plaintiff, that ends up being in the billions, right? Yeah. Or at least over $1 billion. If you look at the math of the school districts, 250 of which are lined up to file suit, and you think about thousands of students per school district, you're suddenly getting to some very large numbers. And so whether these companies can afford this in a dollars and cents way, you know, I think we'll figure that out. Time will tell. But the incentive, which they did not face before now, is to change.
Yeah, if it was a one-off, then absolutely, they're not going to change their behavior at all. They're not going to give a fuck. It's just like, all right, here's the money, leave.
Change the way they do business because there is suddenly liability. In the United States, Kristen, we don't make a lot of changes to how companies do business, or, you know, companies don't make a change unless there's financial harm. This was an industry so enormous that we couldn't have imagined doing enough financial harm to make it possible for them to even consider changing. Yeah. Now those incentives are shifting in a way that we haven't seen,
all right, cool.
I would say, since the era of big tobacco, since the era of lead paint, right? These are enormous kinds of judgments that have to come through for a company to consider changing how they do business.
That's true, but on the other hand, it does create a space for alternatives. It does create a space for alternatives, and sometimes they're not as good, you know? Well, the alternatives, for example, yes, big tobacco started to die down, and then we have fucking vape, like everything vape popping up, and vapes really took over. So what would be the alternatives? This is different. This is a different case, of course. So it, you know, is what it is, here or there.
And so I just think that we're probably, even though we're going to see endless appeal, this is not by any means settled in court. I think that it is for the first time, operating at a scale that really touches these companies in a very new way.
Yeah.
Look, before I let you go, I do have to shift gears. I want to show you this sort of extraordinary scene at the White House today. An AI-powered robot escorted First Lady Melania Trump into a summit on technology and education and opened the summit.
We have AI robots within the White House before GTA 6. Holy shit.
Jacob, by actually speaking, it's kind of out of a movie. What were your thoughts when you saw this? What do we take from this moment? What are the implications?
I cannot
Her fucking face, dude. Ivanka's face. That is so funny.
believe that I'm speaking to you on the same day that a jury of 12 people,
'Cause you gotta think she's getting up there in age as well. This has got to be fucking a little bit strange.
decided we needed to protect kids in this whole new way, established this entirely new idea of harm. And at the same time, you've got this imagery going on. I mean, we have the reason we're seeing these court cases move forward is because at the federal level, no one's been willing to make the kinds of laws that democracy has clearly been clamoring for. When I spoke to the attorney general in the New Mexico case, he said, I don't want to have to do this court case by court case, but because we're not getting federal action, we have to. And when you see, I honestly don't know, Kristen, but I assume that's Elon Musk's robot, right? When you see the pro-tech
Probably is.
cabal that is in the White House now, and the ways in which they are trying to just open the floodgates for that industry. And you compare that to how the first, this jury of our peers has enacted the first real sort of democratic input into what everyday Americans want to see from these sorts of companies. The contrast between these two things could not be starker, Kristen.
All right, Jacob Ward, thank you so much for your insights today. We really appreciate it. Good to see you as always.
Well, I mean, it doesn't really tell me enough, I feel. I'd like to see where this really kind of, I'd like to see where it goes. Yeah, it's great video. Well, we might try to upload it if YouTube allows it.